I have some tomato plants on the grow and on the go. And man, if I had a little townhouse garden, I would be growing a lot of food. But I've only got a back lane in the house where I lease. I'm not ungrateful. Where I lease a room. Nice, tidy little house. Actually, pretty quiet, pretty peaceful. People kind of stick to their own, you know. It's an interesting little dynamic that works. See the tomato plants down there growing? All I did was buy some tomatoes and slice them up. And then I put the slices of tomato just under the surface of the ground. And then I've a thing full of tomato plants, which later on, once they grow, I can put into bigger pots, put more soil in. And then you just need, like, you know, stakes or something for the plant to cling onto, you know, while it's growing. Or it'll tend to fall over and die, because it grows tall, but it's not very strong. It's probably why it grows in the midst of other things and can lean up against them, you know. But yeah, you tend to, I don't know exactly how they would have grown naturally, but you see how lads they put a little frame for it to cling onto. So I'll have to come up and build something. But Lord willing, if I'm still here. But the point I'm making is that abundance is natural to the earth. Like, I mean, if you have one slice of a tomato, you can end up with a vineyard of tomatoes, so long as you have the soil. That's it. That's all you need. All you need is the land to produce your own food. I didn't use any chemicals. I've grown tomato plants before in the complete absence of chemicals. Now, if you grow basil along with tomatoes, they tend to protect each other. And that's something that isn't been implemented by the mass-producing farmers. You know, the farmers that produce for Aldi or Tesco. So because they're using the same land for the same crop all the time, it means that the spectrum of minerals, now let's not be pretentious, a lot of plants take the same minerals out of the soil, but they also take different minerals in different amounts from the soil. So when you I think they call it resting the field, there's another term for it, sort of industry, you know, jargon that says you're basically resting the land, you're giving it a chance to sort of rest, and the microbes to sort of regenerate and, you know, produce what they produce and help to occur what they help to occur in order to make the land fertile again. So what the farmers end up doing, because they're sort of raping the land, is they end up putting fertilization in of a chemical or synthetic sort. And that can't be good. It'll make the stuff grow, but it's not natural. And then on top of that, they put pesticides in to keep the bugs off the plants. I don't know why they do that. We don't eat the leaves anyway. But who would prefer a cabbage with a few holes in it, because a little bug wanted its dinner, to a perfect looking cabbage that's covered in chemicals? You know what I'm saying? So why can't we share our food with the insects? What harm is it doing? We can eat insects. They can't eat us. They can eat a little bit of our food, but not a whole lot. So, and if it's killing the insect, it's killing you. Slowly. So that's the thing. Now, what your enemy knows is to take over your food to kill you. It is an age-old warfare tactic. Armies would march, and they would bring dates and figs, dried fruit. Why? Because dried fruit is, relative to its caloric content, lightweight, because water makes things heavy. And you can get water usually wherever you're going. It'll be there when you get there. You can bring some with you. But if you start bringing water-heavy food, that takes up a lot of space too, aside from its weight. So you dry the fruit, you can bring lots of it with you, which means you can bring more calories with you per weight, per volume. It takes up less space, it's less heavy for the amount of calories you're carrying with you. So what would the army do? Well, these men are big and strong. This food is making them formidable. We need to send men back to their camp while they're away to destroy their food source. So they would go back and they would destroy their crops, which would starve them out. Now, if you want to do that, but you want to conceal that you're doing that, you poison it. If you want to do that and conceal that you're poisoning it, you say that you have to do it to keep the pests down. You say that there's no other option to keep up with the population. Rubbish. Do you think that these are the only nations that have had lots and lots of people in them, that had to produce lots and lots of food? And do you think that they used chemicals? They didn't. They used proper farming methods, crop rotation, rested the land when necessary, and had a variety of different foods. They didn't need to eat them all year round to get the benefits of them. They would eat them in season, because that's what was growing. And in Ireland, you could have potatoes all year round, pretty much. So there's no excuse. Yes, we're not going to have dates or figs in abundance in Ireland. We don't need them. We have spuds. We have sweet potatoes, white potatoes. We can produce beetroot and all the different types of roots. And we can produce some fruits here. Apples and citrus, all of those hardy stuff that can grow in our climate. We can produce in abundance if we want to. Tomatoes in season. But there are stuff that we can grow year round, and we could develop our farming in polytunnels and inside if we wanted to. So there's absolutely no excuse, none whatsoever, for using chemicals. Plus, have you seen what hydroponics can do? Now, I think we should do our hydroponics with bamboo and not with plastics, because you get microplastics, you get residues, you get all sorts of stuff like that. I think we should use bamboo, natural materials, to do our hydroponics. I think bamboo hydroponics would be brilliant. And you could even roll the tubes out of wood. You know, you could heat them over a bar or something, and heat the bar up and then bend the wood around, maybe bind it or something. But that is less to do with what's feeding the plant and more to do with just containing it. So, you know, you could make the buckets out of tree trunk stumps. Like, there's just so many options, you know. There's really no excuse. There isn't. There's no excuse whatsoever for using chemicals on our food. None. You can eat insects. Actually, some insects were considered clean when God was differentiating between clean and unclean animals. He's not anymore. All is good to eat. But locusts and things were considered clean insects to eat. Good to eat, even goodly to eat. So there's absolutely no excuse for poisoning your food for the sake of a few bugs. Now, yes, sometimes a bug can devastate a crop, but it's fairly rare, and there are ways that you can use permaculture to prevent that. Mankind has survived by farming without chemicals. We don't suddenly need to start poisoning ourselves. There's actually no excuse for it, and it should be a crime, because we've noted an increase in cancer since they started using the chemicals. A serious increase. Like 20, they say in Ireland 50% of people are going to get cancer or something like that. No, I don't. I'm just going by statistics. But even if it was 30%, that's too much. Even if it was 10%. Seriously, guys. There's no excuse for it. There are guys farming who weren't born into farming, who are now farming, who are doing it without chemicals. And the guys born into farming are using bucket loads of chemicals. Why? Because they're friends with the guy selling them the chemicals. Are you getting the picture? It's the way it works. That's the way the world works. Like even seed oils, like vegetable oils and stuff, seed oils are byproducts of industry. Like they're poisoning us with those oils that they unnecessarily put into foods as preservatives. I just had a bag of dates out of Holland and Barrett, and I'm getting onto them now. A bag of dates with preservatives. It's a bag of dates. They'll never go off. It's a bag of dates, and you're sticking potassium sorbate on it. Now I washed them, and they were fine, but it's dates. Like where's the know-how? What are you putting potassium sorbate on dates for? Like in all fairness, guys, if insects and bugs and rats will turn their nose up at the food, we should too. And it's happening. I saw two pieces of chocolate on the ground there yesterday. Went back to Aldi and they were still there. When I was a child, that was just unheard of. It'd get snapped up by some critter. And there's no lack of cats around there. And maybe cats don't favour chocolate, but I know mice and rats will even jump into a trap for it. So they'll take the risk, like, because they know. They're not stupid. So, as far as I know, they prefer chocolate to cheese. So what's going on? What's, like, I might be just identifying something that's not there in that specific case, but it is the case that creatures are leaving food, and I'm not the only one who's onto that. They're turning their nose up from stuff that we're paying through the nose for. I remember a life-changing moment, and I'm not over-exaggerating. It was life-changing because it instructed me. And it was the simple eating of a cherry tomato that an old dear had brought to a meeting. She grew them herself. They were fabulous. They were wonderful. It was one of the most flavoursome morsels I've ever eaten, and I was a chef in a fine dining restaurant. I've eaten sorbets and pâtés and terrines, and tiramisus and cheesecakes and banoffees, and pastries and croissants and cheese and ham and creme fraiche croissants, and I've had all the delectable delights. So don't pity me. But this tomato was like nothing else. Truly a flavour bomb. This little homegrown cherry tomato. If you get a cherry tomato in Aldi now, it's like chewing into some paper mache or something. It just doesn't, it feels like it shouldn't be eaten. But this tomato was soft and not too soft. It was just perfect, as can be. And this old lady had grown them at home in her house and brought them in. And it was just so wholesome and enriching, I think is a word, isn't it? It was just, this to somebody years ago, I said, why are you reacting like that to a tomato? They wouldn't have eaten what we're eating. and calling it a tomato. They won't give us something without chemicals on it. It's repugnant. They're poisoning us, lads. Now, as a Christian, we're to be grateful for food, and I am very grateful for food because I know what it's like to go without it for lack of money. So I've come from a chef filling his belly on fine fare to sleeping on the side of the street in -5 degrees. I've seen the top and the bottom of society. I was working so hard in that hotel that I asked for €100 increase, or I was going to leave the hotel. And probably because it was in high season and I was working so hard for them, that the general manager said, "We will give Stephen, we appreciate your work and we believe that you're worth the extra €100. And they granted me the rise, the general manager did. I got €100 increase, which wasn't a whole lot actually, because I wasn't getting paid a whole lot in the first place. I think I ended up with €500 or something, which was a lot more than €500 is now. Consider the amount of inflation that's happened between then and now. And when you're getting all your food free, €500 is a lot. You see what I'm saying to you? And they let us eat and drink whatever we needed. There was they weren't penny pinching in Seafield. They were fair with us. So, because some places, it's not that they're cheapos, they just can't afford to let you to eat whatever you would, you know. So they have to sort of limit you to one meal. But when you look at like McDonald's and stuff like that, they do limit what you eat. Now, I've worked in McDonald's franchises where they'd let you push the bar a little bit, you know, an extra patty on your burger, or go on, or they'd let you take something that was going to be thrown out anyway pretty soon, you know, and it didn't look like it was going to get busy. Have them if you want, because they're going in the bin. So from that sort of aspect, it was easier, but then of course you get lads abusing that and over producing stuff, so it would be sitting in the bin at their lunchtime. So they started to then just make to order, so that kind of crack couldn't happen. But I don't think you should be denying your workers food. That's not a good move. But when you're a restaurant, you know, and if you can't really afford to feed them whatever they need to eat, you should be closing your doors and looking at a different business. But anyway, that's a bit of a digression. Tomatoes can be life-changing. And when you have something homegrown to set beside that which you're buying in Tesco or Aldi or Dunnes, not to differentiate because they've all become crap, you quickly realise, oh, that's no. And so if you can have a tomato that's going to give you much more minerals, and that's where flavour comes from. Flavour comes from the mineral content in the food. And because zinc and copper are in your car battery, science has shown us that this is where you get your energy. So if you have zinc and copper in a nice balance, because the farmer has understood the soil and how to allow it to replenish before he grows something else in it, and how to rotate, and he's actually got wisdom in implementing it. He's got knowledge and is implementing wisdom along with that knowledge. Now you've got a farmer that's actually producing food where you don't need to eat a whole punnet of tomatoes to get as many as one well-grown tomato would give you in terms of minerals. So this one tomato is charging you right up. But you could sit and eat a whole thing of tomato soup and be, because of what's gone into it. or what they've done to it. So this world has been set up to be deathly, but apply or attach some kind of rationale to attempt to justify that deathly approach. Like, everybody wears shoes with rubber soles, which prevents the energy from the earth channeling up your feet into your body and revitalizing you. Because there's energy in the earth. So they've started to put shoes with copper in them, which goes from the foot to the ground through the sole of the shoe and allows the energy of the earth up through the foot. There was an old guy, Desmond was his name, and he helped me to get rid of sleep apnea by teaching me to be conscious of mouth breathing. So sometimes you'll see me doing this if you're in my company. You might see me do that facial expression. And I'm actually pinning my mouth closed and flaring my nostrils. I'm sending that message to my brain. Train the habit of nose breathing. Don't breathe through the mouth. So that when I go asleep at night, that muscle memory is there. So I was in his company with his lovely wife, and I was sitting around his table, and he'd be chit-chatting and whatever. But he had a plan. You weren't just there to see the decor of his house. He was helping you, and he wasn't making it very obvious. So he'd sit at the table, and he'd have something in his mind. I teach this man now to mouth breathe. But he would have enough experience as an older man that there's a way of doing something with another guy. You say, sit down there now and I'm going to show you how to... He wouldn't do that to you. He'd give you a little nod and look in your mouth. And he might ask you, are you mouth breathing? That gentle. Now he'd let you know, I'm serious about this. This is serious stuff. There'd be something in the tone of his voice. This is serious. But he was being very kind to you. He wasn't emasculating you at all. He was not talking down to you. But he was saying, you're mouth breathing. Or he'd note your lips were sticking together and tell you were dehydrated. And I am a little bit now. You see the way they stick together? Watch. Now, if you've eaten something sticky, they might stick together as well for that. But a lot of times it's a sign of you're dehydrated. Probably because your mouth is sticky because there's not enough water to lubricate it properly. Peppermint and clove tea. They say clove is good for disrupting the biofilms around guttural bacterial overgrowth, which I'm trying to get on top of at the moment. Dysbiosis. Which chemicals can cause by irritating the gut lining, which can interfere with your ability to assimilate your food, which can cause bacterial overgrowth. Because if your food isn't properly digested, you can't absorb it. Oh, but the opportunistic bacteria in your body can eat it. So you're overfeeding them because you're not feeding enough. You're getting skinny and losing muscle mass because you're feeding those guys instead of yourself. It's not their fault. It's the chemicals' fault. Because they've disrupted and irritated and agitated and inflamed your gut to the point of its injury so that you can't assimilate your food. Chemical pesticides, cancers, IBS, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, anything that has anything to do with the inside of the lining of your bowel is caused by chemicals. Chemicals on your food are killing you. They're disrupting your systems. And not least of all, the stress. Why? Because stress is a chemical. Everything's a chemical. Why? Because chemicals are physiological manifestations of vibrations. Everything around you is a manifestation of a vibration. Everything. Everything on the periodic table of elements is a vibration. Every substance, every object, everything is a vibration. Do you hear the note? What does a snake do? He constricts. Do you hear the difference? I'm not allowing it to sing its song. Watch. Because I'm holding it by the handle. It's allowed to vibrate. Don't allow it to sing its song. There's a difference. But everything has a note. Which means everything has a vibration. Why? Because when you make it vibrate, you hear its note. But its note is there whether you amplify it or not. Understood? So what the devil tries to do is amplify everything that's evil in the world. Turns it up to 11. That's all he's at. He's just turning up the amplifier of that which is infirm and adverse and deathly and fallen. And manifesting. See, Jesus said the devil has deceived the whole world by his sorceries. What is chemical on foods? It's the devil's song. You getting it now? So corruption, evil, is what? The devil's song. It's out of tune. It's 440 hertz instead of 432. It's any sort of manipulation that the devil can implement in your environment that affects the vibrations and therefore acts upon your well-being in a negative manner. So you have to set up a force field around yourself of light and a refusal to allow those vibrations that the devil is trying to send into you. Resist them. Don't allow those vibrations. Resist them. How? Well, a chemical is a real thing. So what I mean by that is it is an actual substance that can chemically react upon your body. That's why the devil favors actual medicines. Because it helps him to physically bolster his spiritual attack. Gives him something to pull on. Like Tarzan needs a vine to hang out of. So your infirmity, your adversity gives the demons, it gives every of those cosmic unseen evil entities which are speaking death into your life, access points, things to thwart you over. Like that guy that comes up and says, "Oh, is your leg sore?" And he punches you in it. That's who the devil is. Why? Because he's trying to get you to react to his interference with you and his hatred, clear hatred and attempt to harm you. At least to disrupt you. He's trying to ignite, do you ever hear the saying, to get your goat? He's trying to convert you, to flip you, to turn you over to him. By putting enough of his stimulus and his vibration in you that it changes you and converts you and sends you over to a different platform of vibration. So I'll just finish out this video. I'll continue this video in another post. Blessings in Jesus' name. Like, share, subscribe. Blessings.